Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports Podcast, and I am one of the Village Idiots, Daryl. I'm here with my brother, Jared, otherwise known as J. Rodicus. So that is who we are. By the way, when we say Just Okay Sports, that's because it is just an okay podcast, and we talk Oklahoma sports, mainly Sooners football, and a lot of Thunder basketball, and then we weave in some other things as well. So that's who we are. It's what we're about. So we hope you enjoy the ride with us. Speaking of that, Jared, how has the Christmas ride been for your first Christmas in Florida?
It was pretty chill, honestly. It was I woke up, I didn't, obviously didn't have like gifts under the tree, and like I'm gonna do that for myself. I got the dogs. The dogs both got they got giant bones to chew on for Christmas and stuff like that. But I went over to a friend's house. They had a Christmas party because all their family, they did all their family stuff like I think Friday and Saturday or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so yesterday, yesterday, whatever day it is, Christmas Day, they had a Christmas party where it was just like everybody can come over, finger foods. We played a little bit of poker, that sort of stuff.
Nice.
Hung out for a little bit, and I came home and I made a steak, mashed potatoes and gravy, corn on the cob, and green beans, like just for myself. And like it was just delicious.
Heck yeah.
Um, so it wasn't too bad. It was pretty chill, It was like it was a relaxing day. I got to just kind of veg out and watch some TV and get caught up on some. That's what's crazy is like right now there's a bunch of shows that have come out like all at the same time. So I feel like I just spent most of the day on the couch watching, or most of the evening, I guess, watching TV. So what about you?
Nice.
How was the Christmas with the fam?
It was good. We got up, opened all the stuff. This was kind of the first year really where Gibson, our youngest son, kind of like got it. So he was all
Right.
fired up about Santa and stuff and got to assemble everything. And then we went and spent the rest of the day with my wife's family and opened gifts and everything up there. Got home last night. Then today, my wife already has almost all of our Christmas stuff down. And as well as we just moved Gibson into big boy bed. So
Oh,
just took the crib all apart and threw him into his twin size bed. That was part of his Christmas from the family. So got that all done. And Evan Logan is our daughter is upgrading to a full size, so she's repainted her entire room over
of
the
course,
break
of course, yeah.
and has a new bed on the way that just got delayed a full week for delivery, of course. So doing all that. So yeah, been good, been busy but chill, right? Like not don't have to go in the office at all this week. Got the whole week off, and so just doing what we have to do. Didn't get anything for myself or my wife this year. We fixed her car. That was
Oh, there
our
you go.
gift
Yeah.
to ourselves this year. So though we are going to sneak away for a date night tomorrow night. So
Oh,
um,
hey, there you go. There you
there you
go.
go. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, not bad, not
Yeah,
bad. So,
since she already took all the Christmas stuff, like that's an accomplishment. Like, I do you know how many people I know just leave their stuff up till July?
I
Like,
know, yeah,
so,
yeah.
knowing my sister in law, that makes perfect sense too. She's very on top of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. She's ready for the next one and moving on to it all. So that's that, my man. So let's do this thing, shall we? You are in charge today, man, because
Yeah,
I have
I'm.
been AWOL. So
Yeah, you were
uh,
off all week. I had to work today, but it's cool. I'll do all the work. It's fine. I'm not gonna bring it up. But have you? We've already got plenty of bowls. We're like
yeah,
halfway through bowl season, over halfway through bowl
which is
season.
crazy. Yeah,
We're almost to the end of college football, which is sad.
yeah.
Uh, it's funny. I did see the other day. I got like a trick video where somebody like made a trailer for the new NCAA football game. It wasn't real,
Oh,
obviously, but I just saw it and I was like, I just want that here. Like, I'm finally
I
gonna have that
know.
stopgap of like a couple of months before football season. So, but have you got to watch any bowl games yet?
I really haven't, man. We have been, because even like Sunday, was Christmas Eve, which was mostly NFL games. I don't think there was any actually that day, but church and everything. Christmas Day itself, like I said, family stuff all day. We didn't really watch. I say that we did watch the Raiders Kansas City game, is what we watched that day. And then today,
I bet Tal was happy about that.
oh, dude, he was losing his mind. It was awesome. It was so awesome. And I bet our boy Nemo was as
Yeah.
well, by the
Oh yeah,
way.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so anyways, and then today I've been putting furniture and stuff together all day. And again, kids are all the kids are home, so it's kind of one of those things that even if I flip one on for like 2 plays, then you know Gibson starts losing his mind and we need to put PJ Mask on or whatever. So I really have not got to take in hardly anything.
So, okay, well, first of all, let's talk about a bowl game that just happened. Rice
Okay.
versus Texas State, right? There was I don't know how many turnovers it ended up being. Let me put it this way though. That game kicked off at 4:30 my time. 4:30 my time.
Okay.
I
So
believe it
4:30
was.
Eastern. Yep, yep.
Yeah. It ended at 9:30.
Oh my god.
Like it was the most like I don't know how to describe. It was the ugliest. I don't even know like
Wow.
I honestly feel like they may have just I didn't hear what conference the crew was from, the referees. But bro, they may have picked them up at like a junior high game and been like, "Come on, we got to have you." Just horrible. But no, I watched a few here and there. Like I usually kind of had it up in the background here and there.
Right.
Um but yeah, like I don't know, it's been weird this year because like a lot of the teams, like most of the teams that have won have not been favored to win.
Right.
And some of them have been pretty big dog. There was like, I think, I don't know if the stat's still true, but I know a couple of days ago somebody had said teams that were favored by more than double digits have lost every bowl game. I think that was up until like 2 days ago, maybe.
Wow.
Um,
Hey.
so yeah, it's just a weird bowl season. But yeah, I mean, there actually has been some good bowls. I actually think like, and I've been surprised. There's been a lot of guys that have played in their bowl games, even if they're in the portal or whatever. Like that's actually been a little bit more common than I thought, than I remember, at least in the past.
Yeah.
So, um, I do think maybe, well, I think a lot of us, especially older college football fans, don't like the portal as much.
Right.
I think maybe that's one benefit is it does seem like these bowls games mean a little bit more in the sense of both mean more and less, right? Like you have all the guys opting out of the playoff and all
Hmm.
that. But then you have some of these guys that are trying to show out so they can maybe move to a bigger school or
Right.
whatever. And there's just more parity between these schools. I mean, it's not like you're watching, Alabama beat up on a nobody or you know what I mean. You don't have
Yeah.
some big school beating up on nobody. It's just really fun to watch. So, lots of good storylines. But like I said, right now I've got Kansas UNLV up. They're tied up. So, um, yeah, just been. I feel like it's actually been a good bowl season. So,
Yeah.
but
Absolutely.
the Sooners got a bowl game. That's going to
Yes,
be
they
coming
do.
up in a couple of days. Down in San Antone, it's going to
Yep.
be, I believe 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. I believe is a kickoff. It's a very
Believe it.
late game, so I'm going to be up till midnight watching. Maybe
Yep.
up till midnight. Watching OU play. Arizona is currently favored by 3.
Yeah.
Um, the over under though is 60.5 points. So,
Yeah.
they're expecting some points to get scored. Um, now, obviously I've watched Arizona a little bit here and there. Like I watched their USC game. They ended up losing that game, but it was a
Hmm.
dogfight till the very end.
Yes, it was.
Um, Now Arizona, when you look at their stats, kind of impressive, really. I mean, they're obviously 9-3,
Right.
but 305 passing yards per game. That makes them 12th in the nation. Rushing yards per game, they're 149. But that makes them 79th. So, but 34 points per game scored. That puts them 25th, and points per game allowed, they're 28th. So it's like they're kind of a pretty balanced team. And if you look at the
Yes.
rushing, even the rushing attack, it's actually gotten better, a little bit better as the season's gone on.
Yep.
And they've got some players. So, just to name a few, Noah Fafita, I believe is how you say it. Sorry for butchering that. The QB really takes care of the ball. He only has 5 interceptions.
Right. Right.
Um, so he's not really, he's not much of a mobile guy, statistically speaking, but the guy can move the ball through the air and he's got some playmakers. He's got, I'm going to not even try to pronounce the first name, but McMillan, his receiver, has 80 receptions for 1,242 yards on the year
Yeah.
with 10 touchdowns.
Yep.
And he's been getting hot. Like he's the last 3 games, he's been over 100, well over 100 yards each of his last three
Right.
games. So kind of getting hotter as the year goes on. And then Jonah Coleman is their leading um, running back. Now I did see some people that were like, well, he got all of his yards in the Colorado game. Which, by the way, if you're wondering what he averaged in the Colorado game, 16.3 yards per carry in the Colorado game.
Oh my
Um, so his
God.
on year average is 6.9. But even if you take that game out of the equation, he's still averaging a well over 5 or about 5 yards a carry. He's got about 800, 900 yards on the year. So
Nice.
definitely a guy that you got to keep an eye on. You can't just,
Yeah.
let him. But offensively, like, I guess, what do you think of Arizona? What have you seen? What do you know? Like, what's,
Yeah, I mean, for me, I watched a good chunk of the Washington game, which was another game, right? 31-24 against a team that's
right?
in the playoff, right? So that kind of tells you that you lose by 2 to USC when USC was still hot and everybody thought they were the thing and they hadn't imploded mentally and emotionally. They run within 7 points of Washington. They beat Utah. I mean, so this is a very good team. What really kind of shocked me watching tape, and again, maybe it was just a Washington game. I only got to watch one game, but what you said earlier was so true. Was I don't remember how you said it, but on tape, like nobody really stands out.
Mhm.
Like the more every play, I'm like, I don't really like. There's not just a guy flashing, but everybody does their job. Everybody does their job, and you know, and is there to kind of clean up when a one-on-one doesn't go well or what it right like so like an example like everything's fine, corner covers fairly well, they throw a pass out, well, gets his hands on him and then slips off for a tackle, and you think, oh, big gain. And so it does turn into a bigger gain and a problem. But here comes the safety across the way, takes a great angle, all the different things to save a touchdown and at least push them farther in. And so it was just kind of like that all day. Offensively, their quarterback stands out. And it's probably just because he touches the ball the most. Um, I would say watching him, I don't know if it's a mechanics issue. I don't know if it was a weather issue or what, but in that particular game, he had a good chunk of throws where it was like, okay, this guy can play. And then he had a decent amount of throws that looked like the ball was slipping out of his hand. I mean, just ducks and like almost not getting to the receiver because it's ducking, and just wobbling so bad through the air. So, um, physically on defense, they have a safety slash nickel corner kind of guy. Number two, I didn't get his name because I was watching it today as I was trying to put my son's bed together, but he looks the part physically for them and is a guy that I think you'll enjoy watching, as you watch them on the defensive side. So again, it's really there's not guys that flash, but everybody's where they're supposed to be, and they are dialed into the details.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I think McMillan is probably their best player on offense. Like I said, you just look at the stats, right?
Yeah,
But again, it's not this isn't I think a lot of people have the misconception because I mean, really, even when you think about coming into the season, the expectations for Arizona were pretty low.
right, right,
Um, and so you know, when you say Arizona has a guy that has 1,200 yards receiving at the beginning of the year, you're probably thinking, okay, you just double cover that guy and then you're done.
right,
And you really can't do that because, like you said, it's like you leave other guys open. They have enough guys that they can go make plays. They don't may not have a superstar, but you can't. You have to respect everybody. And I agree. They've got some dudes. There's just okay sports podcast. I forgot they have a corner. I think maybe it was their corner. If I remember right, that has like 15 pass breakups or something and like 3 intercept. I mean, like they've got some dudes on defense.
yeah,
Defensively, I think that they're a very tough team. I think they play especially considering coming from the Pac-12, I think they play a pretty physical style of ball.
hmm
Um, and I don't think they're really scared of anybody. But they are to me the one thing with them is they're a little bit I feel like they play up and play down to their competition sometimes. Like when you look at the Colorado game, they played Colorado at a point in the season where Colorado had already kind of started to implode, and most other teams had just figured out how to bully them in the trenches.
right,
And Arizona ended up winning that by a touchdown, which I mean, a win's a win, but still,
right,
when you play to a team like Washington, and even as much as we all hate USC, USC is a talented team. So when you compare that, then Colorado with that disparity, but again, a really good all around team. I think they're going to be a good challenge. So,
yeah.
um, let me ask you this: what scares you most about Arizona?
that they want it. I mean, we were talking about this a little bit before. I watched their presser, or their coordinator slash player availability stuff at the Alamo Bowl today.
Mhm.
Um, One guy literally said that he was asked why so many of the seniors that could be going to the draft were choosing to play in the bowl game and not opt out. And he said, "We haven't been to a bowl in so long. This is our championship game. This is our game." And their coordinators acted, dude, that their DC had a edge to him. I told you, I thought he was going to punch a reporter. I mean, just they want this game.
Yeah.
And I also didn't realize, at least the guys that they had on the podium, I haven't really looked at their roster to check, but several of the one guy on the podium had 35 family members coming to this game. And because he's from Texas. And several of those guys were that way. Another guy had 25 family members coming to this game. So I think that that's what scares me the most. And then just listening to their DC as well. There are certain things he said that sound just like Brent Venables. Like his thing was, when you play free, you play fast. And the way that you play free is through your preparation. If you're prepared well, then you play free, right? And so they were talking about watching tape of Indiana when Seth Luttrell was the offensive coordinator at Indiana. I mean, like, which again, those are the kinds of things you hear Brent Venables talk about, right? Is, oh yeah, they were the OC here 13 years ago, and I've seen tape on them there. So that's really what scares me for them and for our guys is, where's their mentality at? And we talk about this a lot in the bowl season, which you kind of alluded to. Everybody that's favored is losing, because sometimes it's just about whether or not you really want to be there, or if you're locked in, or is it just a vacation, man? Like, those kinds of things. And we'll probably talk about this some later, but to add on to that, I'm very curious about how BV will approach this game. And there seems to be some indications that this is going to be a youth movement game. And if that is true, that could also play as a problem.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think the thing that worries me most is it feels like a very veteran defense that's going to be going up against Jackson Arnold, who,
Yeah,
as much as we all think his ceiling is incredibly high, has this is going to be his first real game.
right.
Um, so I think that's probably my biggest concern. But yeah, but let's flip to the other side real quick before we get off Arizona. What is your hope? Where's your glimmer of hope in all this?
Well, I mean, obviously, one of the things we've talked a lot about is you're missing some key pieces on the offensive line, right? And so that's been kind of the thing, like not only going into the SEC, this bowl game, who's going to block for Jackson Arnold? Well, watching them against Washington, Arizona, that is, their D line reminded me a lot of our D line. They're in their gaps, they make some plays, but they don't have an overwhelming pass rush. Nowhere in that game did they just swarm Penix and make him feel uncomfortable, right? And so that gives me hope in the sense that I don't think, unless they're going to try to bring a lot of heat from different places, I don't see them getting a ton of pressure on him at all. And kind of what I alluded to earlier, it gives me hope that we do go youth movement. I
Yeah,
want to see PJ. I want to see Jackson Arnold. I want to see Petaway. I want to see Peyton Bowen. I want to see Josiah Wagner. I want to see Kip and Kobe play a lot in this game, right? Like that's the stuff I want to see. Like that's the people I want to see in this game, getting the reps and getting the opportunity. And generally, guys that are young and trying to earn spots like that play hard, right? And so that
yeah.
kind of makes up for that other end of it. So that's my hope part of it all.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of in that vein, I think OU's going to have to, I mean, they're going to have to play some young guys at some positions, right? Because of transfers or,
Sure.
opt-outs or whatever. I guess my glimmer of hope is we've talked about ad nauseum at this point about the talent and the youth.
Hmm.
And I really want to see some guys. I think when it comes to talent, I think OU has more than Arizona. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. And I want to see that show out. I want to see
Yeah.
that the coaching staff um can get those guys dialed in enough to go dominate. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we've talked about that you didn't see under Lincoln, where you had all these guys that were just oozing talent, and they just some of those guys never felt dialed in.
Yep.
And that's something that I think we've all believed this staff is capable of doing and is doing,
Yeah.
but it's again, you want to keep seeing it happen. So I think that's my glimmer of hope. So, any other thoughts on Arizona before we move on to the OU side of things?
No, I mean, look, man, as a fan, let me just say this. Regardless of any bowl game, don't lose your mind, win or lose, right? Like you beat Alabama at a bowl game, it doesn't mean you're going to win the national championship the next year, right? Hello, Texas. So like those kinds of things. If you lose, it doesn't mean the program's falling apart. These are weird games, long period of time off, all the activity, I mean, all the things. So, I mean, I think my final thought would just be though that this is a very good team we get to play, and
Right.
so I more so would, like, this sounds terrible, but I'm really kind of approaching this game more from a spring game mentality, that we actually get to do a spring game with truly talented people on the other side, as opposed to let's go first team offense versus like second or third team defense, right? Like, no, you get to have a team that's very capable, that has shown it's capable to beat playoff teams on the other side, and they want this game. And so that is kind of the thing. Like, let's go see what we got, man. Like, let's go figure it out. Let's go play hard and let's see if you guys are ready for big boy football. And this will be a great indicator of where this team's at in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I think this is going to be, I look, I'm still going to be honest because I said this when we got the bowl selection. I think this is a lose lose for OU. We've kind of
Yeah,
alluded to that. Um, but I think this is in a way, the perfect, all things considered, as outside of being in a New Year's Six bowl. This is about as good as you're going to get for a test for you to go into the SEC into next
correct.
year, and like you said, to test some guys,
Right.
whether young or not, that haven't got a lot of runs.
Right.
So
Now, again though, I am with you. It is a lose-lose if Danny Stutzman plays 90% of the snaps, if Billy Bowman plays 90% of the snaps, right? That kind of stuff. Um, yeah, it's a lose-lose. If you actually play Peyton Bowen, if you play Josiah Wagner, if you play Kobe, if you play Kip, right? If you trying to think of who else is it, put Caleb Hicks right in there and give him some run at running back. Put Petaway out there at receiver and let him have some run. If you do those things and you
mhm,
come out and you have a dominant win, now it's a win-win. But
right.
that's the only way you get the win-win is if, and it won't be on Sports Center the next day. But when you do like those college football shows that actually watch college football, that are going to go, okay, that right tackle they played in that game is a true sophomore who's only got like 4 starts and he dominated the right side of the line, right? Like those kinds of things. If you do that, now Josh Bates gets to play some center. That's another one that
Well,
we haven't talked much about. Things like that. Then all of a sudden, now we're now
here,
we're cooking with something.
here's my. This is my nugget. I want to talk about this a little bit more as we get into the OU side of things. I guess we can sort of transition with this. My big contention has been with BV and what he's trying to build and what it feels like he's trying to build is that culture of it doesn't matter who you line up across
Right.
you're gonna go out and play hard and you're
Right.
gonna do everything you can to win. Like, what I mean, you leave it all on the field. Saw that with Stoops teams, right?
Yep.
Um, and you started to lose that under Lincoln a little bit. Um, and you want to see that come back. So like if you when you start to when I feel like when you start to really see that culture take over, then you can start to say like we've kind of exercised maybe that bad culture and we're starting
Mhm.
to actually build the beyond the foundation of a good culture. So
Right.
um but did you get to watch the OU press conference, speaking of?
I did not. I kept looking for it online. I couldn't find it, so I only got sound bites here and there. But I didn't get to watch the entire thing. I don't know why. I easily found Arizona's coordinators and players press conference thing there, but I could not find OU's.
Well, I mean, look, I mean, there's a lot to go over. Seth Luttrell, though,
Yeah.
an OU guy, an OU guy through and through. I don't think anybody could question that. But his interview, I mean, he said in his interview, he said, when I grew up, I wanted to play at OU
Yep.
and I wanted to coach at OU.
Yeah, I saw
I
that
did I
making
did
the
want to
rounds
go.
on
He said
Twitter.
I didn't even want to go to the NFL. I wanted to coach at OU.
Yep.
That was my dream. He said he's an Oklahoma boy. He wanted to come back. He's been trying to get back here for 23 years.
Yeah.
So I think he's gonna be chomping at the bit to try to do a good job and try to get these guys dialed in. And he even said, he goes, "Look, Jackson Arnold and I, this is our first start, both of us."
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's kind of, I think, they've probably had to really pick up their relationship pretty quick over
Mhm.
a month's time. But so hopefully that's dialed in. But and then Joe John just said, he's what doesn't want to be anywhere else. He relishes the challenge. He's loved working with Seth, and I think kind of squashed because I feel like there was a lot of smoke, or well, I would say a lot of smoke. There's a lot of talk about Joe John following um
Levy.
uh
Yeah.
Levy to Mississippi State.
Sure.
And I think he kind of squashed that and said, "Look, I don't want to be anywhere but OU right now." So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, honestly, the coaches were, I mean, they seemed fine. Like you said, I agree with you from your take when you said that Arizona looked fired up. I think our guys, I mean, obviously our coordinators and coaches want to win.
Yeah.
I don't know if they at least broadcasted that they were that level of pumped as Arizona was.
Right.
But I also think, like I said, I think Latrell really does want to win. So,
Yes.
um,
And look, every competitor, that's the thing though, right? Like even you and I, like at a low level of high school football, every game you play, you want to win. But like at the same time, like you play a scrimmage before the season, there's some of them you want to play like hardcore. Like great example, our junior year, we were still a 4A school in high school, and we got to scrimmage a 6A school, and they were supposed to be one of the top 2 or 3 schools in the state. They were supposedly had a guy that was one of the top 10 running backs in the nation. Like we wanted to throttle those guys. And guess what? We did. We beat them 63-7. Okay. But it was more so, I think if we'd have played on a normal Friday night, real wins, real losses, that game's a lot tighter, right? And I still think we win, obviously, but we were in it. There were other scrimmages we played where we played somebody that was not any good and the score was really close because you're just not in it. And it's not because you don't want to win, but you back the throttle off a little bit. And again, we talked about that with this team. This team building to Texas was on an edge. And then the minute they beat Texas, they lost that edge for about 3 weeks. They didn't have any of it. It took 2 losses for them to start to kind of get that edge back, right? So, that's
I mean,
that's what's hard to get a gauge on this team a little bit right now. It's kind of just where I think they want to win. I don't think that they're laxing and practicing hard, but do they really have the mental edge if we want to go kill these guys? And if you don't, then that can pose a problem.
yeah, I mean, we've talked about that all season. It's a hard team to read because even going back to last season, I was at the Cheez It Bowl is what it was last
Yeah,
year, where nobody expected them to do anything.
right,
Everybody
right,
expected them to get run out of the stadium, and it was a dogfight to the last minute.
right.
So this is a hard team to read. So I agree with you, though. We'll see. But like I said, I do like, it makes me cheer for Seth Luttrell a little bit more.
Mhm.
Just being an Oklahoma boy, and I really do think, like, in all honesty, I think he kind of gives me Kale vibes, where you could tell Kale just wanted to be at OU. I mean,
Yeah.
he's tweeting.
Oh, it's
I'm very active on Twitter and
all the
stuff,
time.
supporting OU. I think he's just that same vein of guy that just wants to be an OU boy. So, but beyond that, they also released a depth chart.
Yeah.
Um, now, do you have any just initial chart thoughts? Looking at it, obviously the offensive line is a little bit of a patchwork because all the departures. But does anything else stick out to you? I guess.
Um, I don't know that a whole lot did. I mean, obviously the line was one of the first things I looked at, right?
Mhm.
Um, I find it interesting that Logan Howland is the backup at left tackle. That's a name we have not heard all year long. So that'll be very interesting. Love seeing Heath Zeta on there. I think that could be really, really great for him to get some time in this game. And then both Jakes at the other tackle. Now, how would that shake out if Walter Rouse really got hurt? I don't know. But either way, It's just a better offensive line than we kind of thought we could have going into the game. So I thought that was interesting. There was something on defense. I got to glance back through it again. I remember that threw me off that I was like, really? Oh, there it was. Was very shocked a little bit actually to see that Jaron Canick did not have an or. This is one of those depth charts that has a lot of ors on it, and it's Jaron Canick, ride or die, no or, and I found that interesting, um,
Which
to
I
say
don't
the
know if,
least.
and I don't know if some of that's gamesmanship a little bit. I don't know because
Right,
we've seen that before where there was a game this year where I think they did the same thing where we're all like Jaren Canick's the shoe in, and then Jaren Canick didn't even start.
right,
So yeah, I that is a little bit puzzling though.
yeah. So I think those were the biggest things that stood out to me. That I was like, that's really different than what we saw down the stretch of the season. So what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a plenty to look at. I mean, obviously, Towie Walker
Yeah,
being on there.
yeah,
In an or starting position, you have
mm-hmm.
Sawchuk or Towie or Barnes, then Hicks. So I wonder how that's going to play out a little bit.
Right,
Um, Stogner's obviously playing, even though this will be his last game. So
mm-hmm.
shout out to Stogner. Um, I think the guy that surprised me probably, well, surprised me second most. Um, I think is probably like you said. Well, actually, I'm gonna go with probably Reggie Pearson, RSJ. I thought there might be an or there.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah,
just because RSJ's looked really good. I mean, I think
dude,
RSJ's. I mean, in Pearson
really
has
good.
no shame to Pearson, but
No, 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 no.
RSJ's just looks so good. So I'm a little surprised there's not an or there. But honestly, like I said, you look at the depth chart and it's like somehow I look at this and we still have a patchwork offensive line. I feel a little bit better about who we have out there
Yeah,
now. If we were going to play Bama or Georgia, then I'm probably not having the
I'm
warm fuzzies.
terrified, right?
But we're where we are now. I do have one thing that we just have to talk about as
Oh,
OU fans. The
I saw I saw this in the notes.
Sooner Nation has already been with their pitchforks out, and I want to get your take because we haven't really talked about this in depth. Gavin Freeman. Gavin Freeman is listed not only as the backup in the slot behind Drake with no or ahead. He's ahead of Petaway,
Right.
but he's also listed as the primary punt returner.
Yeah.
So give me your thoughts because I have some, but I want to hear yours first.
Well, again, the hard part with this depth chart is there does feel like there's a lot of things on there that's very just chalk from the season that doesn't line up with what we saw the last 3 to 4 games of the season, right? So, is this just a depth chart they threw out there a week ago and that's what they're riding with and it's a little bit of gamesmanship? On the other side, again, I'm just going to be curious how they treat this game. Are they going to give young guys opportunities? So, like for instance, with punt returning, do you give Petaway a chance back there? And what does that look like in comparison to Gavin, right? Like those kinds of things. Um, I don't have a problem with him listed as the primary guy because he has been all year. Now, at wide receiver, I don't understand that. I don't understand how Gavin Freeman is higher on a depth chart above Brennan Thompson or Jaden Gibson or tied with Jaden Gibson and or Petaway. Like I don't. And I like the kid. We've talked about this 1,000 times over. We know his attitude towards OU. We know his love for OU. We know he's a legacy. We know he's a workout, just,
He's a gym rat.
warrior, right? Like, but that
I
what
mean,
are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? Like, he has shown, at least based on how you've used him, that he is not as much of a playmaker as those other guys. So I don't know
I
what we're doing there.
I mean, look, my take on it is this. Gavin Freeman is probably he's an Oklahoma boy. He wants to it's been his dream. We all know those things. The story's really cool. That's great. But if you look at his stat line, you look at how he's played, especially in the punt returning realm of things, and I mean, really just overall this season, there's nobody else that would like everybody else would have been benched. There's nobody else in the country I think that wouldn't have benched him. Um, especially when you have somebody that you've seen as little as we've got to see a Petaway.
Yeah,
Petaway's shown way more ability to be lightning.
he shows flash.
Um, and so it is curious. Like you said, I'm hoping that's the case. And it's no dig at Freeman. Maybe he gets it sorted out in the offseason or whatever. But the punt return stuff, especially, it's like, dude, it is a absolute liability. It's not even
Yeah.
you had a bad game. You've been a liability all season long.
Well,
Um,
and that's I would say after about game 3, he became a liability. I'd say the first 3 to 4 games of the year, he was actually one of the strengths, right? That had us believing that special teams was going to be a strength of this team. He had the punt return for a touchdown. He had several other really good returns early in the year. And then as games got tighter and you started playing better competition, his opportunities became less in the passing game. His opportunities became less in the punt return game. And it felt like he was constantly pressing to do something insane, right? And instead of just letting the moment come to him, and then because of that, he's fair catching balls inside the 10 and inside the 5-yard line. He's muffing punts. He's, just it looked like he just got all kinds of out of sorts as the year went along, whereas he was a strength early on. So that's the other side. Like these
I mean,
3.5 weeks they've had, maybe he's gotten his crap together and he's gone back to that guy of going, okay, look, if all I get is 6 fair catches, that's the way it rolls. But if I get space, then I can roll. Then okay, then we'll see what happens.
and it comes back to I had one of my favorite coaches used to say, you can work out in the gym as much as you want, and we love that, but it's all about what's between your ears.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little bit of where he's at. I think he's kind of got that the cold shooter mentality, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like he's just trying to take shots because he doesn't know what else to do. He's just trying to get hot again.
Yeah.
So
By the
yeah,
way, sorry, another note that I'd forgotten till just now on the depth chart is this one. There is one big change on the depth chart that was not the case all season long. Although, again, playing time would have indicated a little differently, and that is this: Josh Faniel as the backup tight end. All
yep,
year it's been Blake Smith, and he
yep.
has moved up to the backup there. I think that is very intriguing, and I'm very interested to see what happens there. And I do think it was interesting that even yesterday or today, one of their social media posts was Stogner and Faniel together out front of the hotel, inviting fans and all those kinds of different things. And so, um, yeah, I just find that one really intriguing. Again, for those of you that don't know the story, Cameron University basketball player transfers to OU. He's a redshirt sophomore, so he's still got some time, right, to put some things together. And he's only 6'3", 250, and he moves well. So that could be a really interesting piece as well that you see on the depth chart.
Yeah, I am anxious to see that. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I do feel. I mean, like I said, it's just funny that I think we're starting to see, as much as people may be down about a lot of things, and I understand that. I do think we're starting to see a little bit glimpse of that competitive depth.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm hoping that's what we see.
Yeah,
So maybe that's the sunshine in me. Um, but hey, one thing we're not even talking about on the depth chart, the Jackson, like I said, the Jackson Arnold
Arnold.
era is here. There's no way around it. Um, and not only that, his teammates, like, I think, was it I don't remember who it was. It was on Gibson and them's podcast. They were
Yeah,
talking about
it's
it, and they said,
Gentry. It's
yeah.
Gentry.
And he said, dude, he made a throw that was just like, he said, even BV, he goes, BV watched it, and he goes, you know how BV's like serious, like, you
Yeah,
need to do this, you need to do that. And he said, BV watched and goes, I don't
yeah.
know.
Guess you got to get tighter.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I think and dude, watching the film, like watching the little bit of practice
yeah.
shots we've gotten to see, dude, his release is it's nice. It's
Look, man,
nice.
it what you just said is so true. You can work out all you want, you can watch all the tape you want, you can have all the tools, like physically, the God-given tools. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do between the ears when the fans are loud and everything is crazy? What are you going to do? And look, like giving a honest evaluation of Jackson Arnold, right? We saw the Tulsa game where we saw all those tools and all that ability look unbelievable. That dot he threw to Nick Anderson, right, in that game when Nick was just coming on the scene was a thing of perfection, right? Then we saw the BYU game that actually looked a little rough for a little bit, right? It wasn't mop up duty anymore. Again, it wasn't just it doesn't matter what I do. This game's over. This is practice. It he came in and had to win the game and he struggled for a bit, right? He struggled and then closed it out with a laser to Jaleel Farouk, which by the way, as good of a throw and all that stuff, Jaleel Farouk is the hero of that play. That was an unbelievable catch that he made, right? So now let's see it. You are the guy that you're no surprise. You got to go out and get it done. Let's see what happens. But yeah, dude, watching the ball come out of his hand. I mean, and look, we try not to like overly brag, and at the same time we like to give each other crap about the things we got right. The minute I started watching Jackson Arnold tape in high school, I was like, I don't understand what's going on with this guy's rating. Like, it is dumb what this guy can do. And then he was a pocket passer. And then you start watching the tape, it's like, this dude is not a pocket passer. This guy can run. And then they didn't know what to do with him. And then he wins the Elite 11. I mean, like, I
Like
really like him, man.
here, let me give Sooner Nation a little bit to salivate over. You like you said, you had the BYU game. Like you said, he played trash duty, right? He comes in the BYU game, and I also remember in the BYU game, I think it was Nick Anderson or Gibson that he had streaking down the sideline that he overthrew, and you could just tell
Yeah.
that that was that
Yeah.
he got buck fever, right? He got the
Yeah.
trembling
Yeah.
legs, and he just
Yeah.
saw it and he just overthrew, right? He got a little anxious.
Juices were
You
flowing a little too much on that
so
one.
you
Yeah.
had a little bit of that knocked. You had a little bit of that freshman mentality taken out of him there. Now you're gonna have a whole game to really like put him in the trenches and put some, get some bullets flying over his head.
Yeah.
And then going into next season, it's like for your quarterback, at least, that's about the best scenario you can put him in. Because next
Yep.
year he's going to go in and he's going to go, I've been there. I've
Yep.
done that. I've played when the lights were bright, and
Yep.
now I'm going to go play some big boy football. So in that capacity, I think it's really good. But yeah, I mean, I'm anxious to see. I really am excited to see um what he does. So, and
Yeah.
like I said, perfect timing for him to be able to come in. So,
Yeah.
and the crazy thing is what's you know, Davis Bevel's gone now. So General Booty's, I think, the only backup
No, no, no.
quarterback.
Bevel's there. Bevel's at the bowl game.
Oh, he's at the bowl game.
Yeah.
Okay,
He's
he
still
didn't
there.
enter.
He's playing. Yeah.
He didn't
Even
enter the
though he's in the
portal.
portal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
Correct. And
which
by the
him and
way, another thing to go listen to, Eddie and George Stoya did an interview with Dylan Gabriel,
yeah,
and they asked him about Jackson, and he gave Jackson some pretty high praise as well. I mean, really talked well of him. And again, he's one of the ones that kind of has me wondering because he said, with BV's vision and where BV's going, it's just kind of time for a youth movement, like that's just kind of that's the direction they're going. And I don't think he meant that just a quarterback. I think he meant that as a team. They've brought in these guys and it's time to let them loose. And I hope they do that this weekend or this week.
yeah. So, and kind of rolling with that, let's just go because we're talking about the youth movement. I think
Mhm.
everybody, into some capacity, is expecting some youth to come out.
Yeah.
Give me one young guy on offense and one young guy on defense. That's
Mhm.
going to be, like a sophomore or freshman or whatever. That you're really wanting to see play most. You think is going to have a big impact.
Mhm. Man, this is so like because offensively, it's easy who I want to see. Because who I want to see is Caleb Hicks. That's
Yep.
who I want to see get run in this game. I don't believe for a second it's going to happen. I think if they got up big or whatever, I think it's going to be the Towie Walker show. I think they're going to do everything they can to get Towie a scholarship somewhere and really put him on display in this game. But that's who I want. Who do I think could? Um, of the young guys we have not seen a lot of, it'd be Petaway. I mean, that's the guy. Out the only other guy you could even maybe say, but he's come on so strong in the year is Jaden Gibson to me.
Mhm.
Like, right? Like that's kind of the dudes. Now for guys that are trench players, Joshua Bates would
Yep.
be another one I think that could play in this game a decent amount and is a guy that we've all been excited about. But as far as the guys I really do think that are going to play on offense, it's Petaway, and he could have a huge impact on the game if they let him run.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, obviously, we can't really, I mean, like I said, Jackson Arnold's way too low of a hanging
Yeah,
fruit to say.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, Petaway was who I was gonna say. Excuse me. I mean, again, we've seen flashes.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see him get enough run that we can actually see him. I mean, really, like when you think about it, it's like, what does he play, like 2 or 3 plays a game? Like put him out there for
If
even
that, yeah.
if he played 10, 15 snaps, I would be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and just to get some of those guys, like I said, get the bullets flying over their head. But since you picked him, then I'm gonna go with somebody you mentioned earlier. And I'm gonna go Josh. How do you say his last name?
Faniel.
Faniel. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Faniel. Like I
Dude.
said, when you look at him, like athletically, the dude, like when we were at the SMU game, we saw him warming up.
Yep.
That's a big human being.
Yeah.
That is a big human being,
And
and
he's fluid.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You when you saw him, he looks, and that's what's crazy about it is when you watch him. We watched him warm up. I know it's crazy to say this about watching somebody warm up, but it's like he warmed up like a basketball player, very limber, very nimble for somebody his size, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't a heavy footed guy. So on offense, I definitely think that that's probably gonna be the guy that I'm circling. And just to kind of like I said, we've got to get somebody in the tight end room
Yeah.
to assert themselves. So and then I guess I'll go on to the defense side. Um, I mean, I guess this is kind of a probably a little bit of a low pick. I'm gonna go. I mean, I hope that he gets to play. I'm gonna go RSJ. I know that he's not quite
I'm
new, but
okay.
he's a younger guy. Um, it's just felt like they've kind of managed him a little weird. Like it feels like he's played a lot in spots and then just kind of not been on the field in other spots. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
want to see him, a younger guy that could get on the field, and make some plays in a big moment. I think would do very, very well for him. And I love his stock. And then of course I'm just going to shout out the other guy that like you said, that I'm going to pat myself on the back. Kip Lewis, man. Like you said, where I feel like the linebackers might get shuffled quite a bit, with Danny,
I hope so.
Canick and all that sort of stuff. Dude, give me Kip Lewis. Give me some
Yeah.
Kip Lewis. The
Yeah.
dude to me is, I mean, this season, when you go back and watch him play, the dude just he's a
Finds the
dog. He's
football. He just finds
yeah,
the football.
yeah, and
Period.
he's not scared. Like he's not that guy. Like he's not and that's what's crazy. You look at him, he's not a massive guy, right? Like he
Mm-hmm.
needs to put on more weight, but he's not scared to take on anybody. That's the kind of guys that I think BV wants.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not afraid of contact. He's not afraid of if it's a D or a left tackle or interior guard. Like he doesn't care. He's gonna just try to
Mm-hmm.
push that guy off of him and go get the ball. And I just love his attitude. So that's
Yeah.
my guy on defense.
Well, and I'm kind of the same as far as like low hanging fruit. Like I feel like the low hanging fruit guy for youth on defense is Peyton Bowen. If he doesn't play 60% of the snaps, it's a travesty, right? Like find out what this kid is. And I think we know already, but like very few games did he play a bulk of snaps at all. And I know he had a shoulder, something going on in the season and some different things, but man, run that guy like crazy. Like, let's find out what we've got there. And I mean, literally, I would feel great if he played awesome and if RSJ played awesome. Bowman, Bowen, RSJ, make those your three guys next year would be great. The other guy on defense, though, that I want to see play a lot and needs to have an impact is PJ. It's
Uh-huh.
time.
Yep.
It's time. Look, and I said this early on. Everybody was like, PJ's got this blah, blah, blah win rate. It's like, dude, we're playing Arkansas State. We're playing, like, he doesn't have to do anything to have a win rate in these games. And then as the year went on, it was less and less and less and less PJ. The tools are there. He's had a month now to refine some things. He needs to eat in this game. And if he doesn't, I think we have to be concerned as far as this is not a guy that next year you're leaning on to be a stable in that in that line group, right? This is a guy that's unfortunately going to be a fourth or fifth year guy before the lights come on for him, I think. And that's okay. But we brought this guy in believing he was going to have impact this year and he was going to be a staple next year. And if he does not assert himself in this game, I don't believe that that's true.
Well, I mean, when you looked at him at camps and stuff, right? Like he was just so dominant at
Yeah.
camps, and like you said, it would be strange to see him not
Even at
somehow
the
assert himself.
Army or whatever, all the Under Armour All American, like he was everywhere, like when he was on the field.
Yeah.
And now in college, he's really kind of struggled to find himself. And so you've had some time off, you've had a break, go to work. That we need you in the SEC next year.
Yeah, and it's, not to give him defensive, but a little bit of, I think could could be a little bit of that Brent Venables defense is complicated and those sorts of things. But we'll see. Like I said, I do think he's a guy you do have to circle a little bit. So and then just to go real quick, just give me two impact players overall for this game. Give me
Ooh.
some other guys.
Um,
Doesn't matter offense or defense. Who's two guys, doesn't matter old or young, that are going to be impact.
I think defensively, I think your impact player on the defense is going to be DeJoun Terry. I think he's going to really come out and have a really good game in this game. Coming back for another year, same thing. He needs to assert himself to get ready. And I'll just go on the other side just for kicks. I think on the other side of the ball, um, I think the impact player is going to be Sawchuk. I think he needs to build off what he did. I don't think he's going to play a ton in the game. Again, I think Towee will probably be more. But again, if he just gives us a quarter and a half of what we saw down the stretch of the season, okay, like I'm good. Like go let Towee eat after that and do his thing. But I think, and that will take the load off of Jackson as well and make him comfortable. And then he can impact the game in the passing game, et cetera, et cetera. So I think Sawchuk will be the impact guy on offense.
Okay, I'm gonna pick one. I'm gonna pick a dark horse pick a little bit. I
Oh,
don't know if
okay.
it's really crazy dark horse, but a little bit. I'm gonna go Kobe McKenzie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I think, like I said, I think obviously Jaron's starting ahead of him on the depth chart as it's listed, but I just think Kobe. I think Kobe's kind of started to get it as the season's gone
Mm-hmm.
on. So I think if they give him some run, I think he might try to assert himself
Yeah.
into that position.
Yeah.
And that's again no dig at Kanik, but Kobe is. I feel like the last three games of the season when
Yeah.
he got to play, he was on.
Yeah.
So that's my guy on defense, and then my offense pick isn't that much of a dark horse. Nick Anderson. I
Yeah.
think Nick Anderson's going to have a big game. I think he needs to have a big game. Even I know that sounds weird to say he needs to have one, but um, dude, I just think that he's again. You want to see him just go out into a game like this and just light it up
Yep.
with a new quarterback, have that same chemistry, and just get wide open, and we can start to see how that deep threat's going to look. And real quick shout out, just a sub, like maybe a 1A or whatever in my pick. Drake Stoops, final game as a Sooner.
Dude, that's it. We missed it completely. That will be the impact player of the game on offense, period. Like
Dude,
100%.
dude, I'm telling you, it's almost, I might be in tears by the end of the game seeing if Drake Stoops walk off, because the dude's played at OU for like 25 years, man.
Dude,
It's
like seriously, Sooner Nation will be in tears if he goes for like 10 catches and 150 yards with a couple tutties, and one of them is like gives you the lead at the end of this game. I mean, I really do think people like this like no name bowl game that no one's excited about will be one that people talk about forever if that happens.
dude, and like if you just see like if they win the game, Bob Stoops down, it's like, dude, there's a whole
Yes.
storyline. Like,
Yes.
dude, like
Yes.
Disney's gonna be making a movie about it. But real quick before we move into this, some just overall college football, some of the early enrollees have showed up,
Yeah.
right? Like you have Jaden Jackson, Michael Hawkins, some of those guys have showed
Yep.
up.
Nigel
Uh,
Smith. Yeah, there's a good group of them down there.
yeah. So one guy that Troy and I guess Daryl gave a little buy stock in before they even arrived. This was a couple weeks ago. Jaden Jackson is I'm not gonna lie, dude looks Looks like
I
it.
I yeah, I was shocked at how many people at practice were just raving about him. Nigel as well got some praise from some folks that got to be at practice and watch portions of practice. But I mean, yeah, I think that here's the thing. It shows you where our recruiting was on the defensive line because here's the thing. We haven't had a kid that's a freshman that came in at 305 like Jaden Jackson is.
Yeah.
Like it's been JUCO guys, it's been transfer guys. It's and then we bring them in and slim them down to 290. So to see a kid that's supposed to be finishing his last semester of high school still coming in at 300 something pounds, it's like, oh my gosh, like what is that? Like we've never seen that. It's the same with PJ last year when he showed up. It was like, what is that? Like that's not normal because we weren't getting those guys, which again, kudos to the staff. Nigel Smith is the same way. When you see him in those videos, it's like, good Lord, man. Like that guy is and Nigel still looks like a guy that can put more weight on his frame. I mean, like, it's just unreal, man. Like it's
I
awesome.
mean, yeah, and I mean the crazy thing about Jaden Jackson, I think, is that he wasn't like a lower rated guy, but he wasn't like a unanimous even 4-star. He was 3 by some places. He was
Yep.
kind of a middling 4. Um, but yeah, at the coaching staff, everybody is raving about him.
Yep.
So everybody's trying to buy stock right now. So you and Troy, y'all have got the early position. So
You're
uh
welcome.
yeah. But moving on to college football, speaking of craziness in college football and recruiting and all that, Mizzou and Ole Miss apparently got some oil money, some old money, some new money. I don't know. They are
Some
throwing
money
bags around like you wouldn't believe. Today they just got Mizzou just landed McClellan from was Florida. He was at
from
Florida.
Florida. Yep. But
So they
hey,
had
Tulsa high school kid, um,
yeah.
that a lot of people believed was very high on OU when he entered the portal, and Mizzou gets him instead.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. Ole Miss is the one that I'm scared of. I'm still not scared of
Yeah.
Mizzou. Um but yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on Ole Miss and Mizzou though? Just throwing bags around like crazy.
Well, I mean, the Ole Miss one is a little funny because Lane Kiffin basically spent an entire year and a half just throwing knives at Jimbo Fisher, buying recruiting classes and the money he's spending, da da da. And it's like, it's obvious that Ole Miss is very involved in the NIL game based on what they've pulled out of this portal. Um, and so Ole Miss is terrifying because if they can tap into the talent of these guys, wow. I mean, it
Look,
they have assembled something for sure. Mizzou feels a lot more, and I mentioned this last week, and I know this makes no sense, but like we've talked about many times on here, Troy and I are in an auction fantasy football league, and that we have a guy in that league, Wes. Wes every year would have 5 guys that were in like the top 10, or not 5. He'd have about 3 that were top 10 players overall in fantasy, and he would spend every ounce of money he had on those guys, and he would just fill in from the rest, right? Mizzou feels like that a little bit, right? They go get Caden, they get McClellan, they got Luther Burden, like they got Newary, they've got like 4 or 5 guys that are like big, 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 big time. After that, I'm not really sure what they have, but they've got that. And that's them, man. They're going superstars, trying to get all they can. And like I said a while back, I think people forget that Mizzou is a very well respected journalism school. And so there are a lot of people attached to Missouri that are big names in the journalism world. And so that's a part of where that money comes from. And then I'm sure there's lots of other random, you got Bass Pro money in Missouri. You've got some stuff, man. I mean, heck, the Bass Pro family alone just said that they were going to be involved with NIL at Missouri. That done. Like, right? Like that's a done deal. Like right there. So maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just it's a weird thing. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I'm not scared of Mizzou. Like I said, I think they're a big fraud this year, and I don't think again, it's like holistically, I just don't think when you look at their recruiting class, even look what they brought in the portal so far, I think they're going to be a better team next year, but I also don't think that they're going to be world beaters, right? So it is what it is.
Yeah.
And now the argument around OU. because there's been people, the fan base,
Right.
other fan bases, well, OU's poor, they can't afford it. And the argument has been it isn't about OU having the money, it's about OU being willing to spend the money, the willingness to spend the money on certain players. So what's your thought on that? Because like to me, I think that it's partly that it's the case. I mean, I
Right.
think that some of these guys are really good and we'd love to have them, but if they're going to come in and say, "Well, I want $1 million," good luck.
So I've talked about this before on the podcast. I know for a fact that their NIL collective structure, right, has chosen to have a culture about it. And the culture of that collective is they want to have a culture of empowerment, not entitlement. That is what they have said from the get go. We do not want to create young men who are entitled. We want to empower young men to be great. That is why, which has come out, right? Like Levy was a big piece in the NIL game before he left. And so they literally have kind of their money pool, if you will, structured like the NFL. And so literally they are following the NFL percentages just like the NFL does. Like you spend an X amount of percentage on offensive line, you spend an X amount of percentage on running back, wide receiver, etc. That's how their structure is set, right? And then they are setting up a structure where they're not paying. They are in the game, don't get me wrong, but no, they're not trying to throw 1.5 million at a kid out of high school that you're not sure is great or not, right? They're going to give
Right.
that money to a kid they developed. And then the other side is because of that entitlement over empowerment or empowerment over entitlement stuff, they do not react well to bidding wars. They do not react well to, hi, I'm Daryl Reiniger. You guys want me. Here's what I've been offered by these other two places. What are you going to do? Like that don't sit with this staff because they know that then from there on out, it's not about you're not getting a kid that's going to let you coach them. You're not
Mhm.
getting a kid that's going to let you be honest with them. What you're getting is a kid that's just going to wait till the largest bidder comes along and he's going to go there. Right. And so that's the problem with that mentality and why like an A&M kind of implodes on itself because that's all you had those kids doing was y'all threw us the bag. You need us. And that's true. But it's not a look, we want to give you this. And then if you earn starts, you're going to get this. If you become our entrenched starter, you're going to get this. And then not only that, we have the best coaches on the staff to get you the NFL. What's going to get you this? We're going to get you internships and connections in the business world that get you this, right? Like they are trying to set levels up. Like you used to say in recruiting all the time, right? There's levels to this. That's how OU wants to approach this. You come in and earn your keep and then there's a level to that. And you keep earning your keep and there's a level to that. We're going to take care of you. We're going to play the game. But don't come in here with just numbers. Come in here with what you want to be as a man. Come in here what you want to be as a football player. Come in here and tell us what you want to be when you're 50 and we're going to come alongside you and help you level up to that. And I think that that can win. I don't think you will win maybe necessarily as much as some other places on some given years, but I do think it's something that can really be a long haul better culture and a winning culture.
Yeah, I mean, just like, to frame that another way, it kind of gave me the vibes of in the professional world, my old boss, when I was when he told me from the get-go, if you want more money, if you want more whatever, come to me and let's talk about it.
Right.
He said, don't show up at my door and say, I've got an offer and you're going to beat it. He said, if you do that, I'm going to say, I'll write you a letter like recommendation. Tell me where I need to send it.
Right.
Right. And that's how it was. And it wasn't, that was not a toxic culture. Me and him have a good relationship to this day.
Mhm.
But that's what it was. Earn what you can, earn your keep and you'll
Right.
be taken care of. Right.
Right.
And when I did move on, it wasn't out of there was nothing against him. There was nothing, I mean, it was just I had to go to a better situation.
Mhm.
And it is what it is. And there was no we're gonna have a bidding war. So anyway, I do think that's a little bit. I mean, I think that they're deciding where to spend that money, and that's fair. Um, and real quick, just to finish up with OU, do you think OU's gonna Like, give me. How do you think there's one, two, three more guys that are going to try to get out of the portal before next season?
Yeah, I mean, according to BV's numbers at his press conference, there's still another 4 to maybe 5 that they might be targeting out there to get. It sounds like this Nick, I forgot his last name already. But he was teammates with the wide receiver guy that we picked up, uh, Burton. But he was the Big Ten leader in sacks from the defensive end position slash outside linebacker position. That sounds like a guy right up BV's alley because they need a pass rusher.
Nick Scourton?
Yeah, whatever
Scourton? Yeah.
that is, that guy. I think that they'll be in after him quite a bit. There's another guy that was an all MAC, all whatever player from Miami of Ohio, but I definitely think, and I still think they need linemen. And remember, this is something we forget, right? Like, remember the transfers that OU got after spring that made impact. Andrell Anthony was one of those.
Yeah.
He was a post spring transfer, big impact. Caleb Schaefer, post spring transfer that had some impact. And there was another one too, and I can't remember who it is. Maybe Reggie Pearson, I think was post spring as
Maybe.
well,
Yeah.
who played a lot. So they went and got some guys and were patient and waited for that whole part of the process to play out and got some guys that had big time impact for this team. And so I think that you'll see them be patient to that window if they have to.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I do think they'll add some guys, but it's going to be the portal is wild. Speaking of wild portal, FSU is in shambles. Florida State is in pieces.
Feels that way, doesn't it?
Rodemaker, however you say his name, quarter who was going to be the starting quarterback.
Yep.
He's in the portal now, and not I believe has said he's not playing in the bowl game. A number of their top players have all entered the portal. I mean, it's wild. Like there
Yeah.
is a exodus from Florida State. Florida State's now trying to bounce from the ACC.
CC.
Chaos abound over there, and I feel really bad because we've talked about it. I when it was under Jimbo, was not a big FSU fan, but since then, it's like I don't necessarily cheer for them, but you know what I mean? Like it feels like the cultures got turned around. It feels like when I was at the Cheez It Bowl game,
Mm-hmm.
wonderful fans,
Yeah.
absolutely wonderful. There was one part out of I was obviously the 90 something percent OU or Florida State fans, and I had one guy that was a jerk, right?
Right.
So just a wild time in Florida State. It's just crazy to see how the portal's affected that. I mean, and it's funny because now you have people writing all these coming up with these conspiracies that ESPN's the one paying these players to leave Florida State, and it's just wild. It's like the crazy time we live in with NIL and transfer portal is just getting wild. And speaking of wild, USC doesn't have a quarterback right now. Will Howard has said that he's down to USC. I believe it's USC and Ohio State are the two schools that he's deciding between.
Yeah, they're the two biggest things. There's somebody else in there, but yes, Ohio State and USC are well up there.
It's just wild to me. Is it like is has I really feel like Riley's shine kind of wore off the season with a lot of people.
Yeah, I do think that that's a reality. And I also think for the first time ever in Riley's career, he ended the season with a quarterback regressing, right? Whereas he's always been putting a guy on the rise, right? And
Right.
granted, mostly transfers, but even Caleb's freshman year, when Spencer was the one regressing, right? Caleb came in and saved the day, and he did ascend through the year. He got better and better. He had some bad games as a true freshman, but he got better and better and better. Now this year, he regressed, right? And went backwards in a lot of areas. So now all of a sudden, there's a lot of question marks with that. There's question marks about the way that their culture is and what the workout regimens are. And so you have all that. And then with FSU, look, I'll say this. I don't think ESPN's paying those kids to leave, but here's the deal. ESPN paid them to leave when a team went 13-0 and did everything that they were supposed to do, and you said, no, you don't get in. And so
Well,
if I'm a kid who's got 2 years left and I go, so you mean to tell me we've had like this many undefeated teams in the last like 8 years of college football that were Power Five schools, and we don't get in. We don't get to be in the playoff for that. Like, sorry, I want to go play for Bama where I'm going to make the same money. I want to go play for Georgia where I'm going to make the same money, or whoever in another conference where I'm going to get in if I go undefeated. Matter of fact, I'm going to get in if I have one loss, because that's what you just said. The Big 12 gets a team in over us with one loss. And like, let's be
It's
real. The Florida State schedule was a better schedule than the Big 12 had to offer in any way, shape. The only thing Texas has for it is beating Bama. That's it. Right? Like, after that, like, nobody on that schedule just makes you go, wow, what a win, because the Big 12 was so weak this year. So I think that that's a big,
I
big
mean,
piece of it.
yeah, I mean, I do think and it breaks my heart to for a selfish reason of I was hoping Florida State because I was Florida State's defense throughout the season.
Dude,
Good,
so
good
gnarly.
lord, they were so good.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really honestly think that they have a chance. It's not before it was not a very good chance to beat Georgia, I didn't think, but they had a chance because of that defense. Now it's a snowball chance in hell.
Yep.
But yeah. So anyway, I think that's enough college football talk. We've kind of covered the bowl game, covered a little recruiting. So anything else you got for college football?
No, I'm good. Good on that front.
Well, we got the Thunder though,
Yeah.
and they've been doing well. They did drop one to the Lakers. I actually haven't. We're recording this during the game. Thunder beat the Timberwolves 129 to 106 tonight.
Nice.
So a good win. They are now third in the West, which who would have thought? Again, who would have thought? Third in the
Right.
West. That's just wild. I mean, this late in the season, and they've been there the whole season essentially. They've been second or third pretty much the whole season.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you said, we talked about this before. They beat the Clippers,
I
who
was
are a
there.
hot,
Yeah, I was
hot
there.
team.
Me and my son got to be there in the stadium for that game. And dude, yeah, they were on like a 10-game winning streak, like just annihilating people. And dude, they dismantled the Clippers. It wasn't even close.
And they beat the Nuggets, who are
Yes.
the top of the West,
Yeah.
the one of the best teams in the NBA. And like I said, really, when you lost to the Lakers, it was just one of those games, kind of. You know what I mean? Like
I
it.
think it wasn't LeBron like 8 for 8 from three, and just he just went nuts. And if LeBron's hitting threes like that, I mean,
Yeah,
it
I
is
mean,
what it is.
yeah, it's just that's one of those games. That's how basketball is. Uh, so I mean, it is what it is. But I do think that the Thunder are on a very uptrend, right?
Oh
And I was
man.
gonna, I had the question for one. Let's ask this first. I've seen a lot of talk about Chet versus Wemby, and it's like a serious talking point of who's better.
No. Not right now. I still think long term there's a discussion to be had, right? I mean, this we do have to realize this is Wimby's first year in the NBA, right? And while yes, it's the first year for Chet to be playing in the NBA, he spent a whole year watching it, being there, seeing it, and that does help, right? Getting to be in those practices with NBA players for an entire year means something, right? You get to learn and figure out a lot. I mean, it's the NFL model of bringing in a quarterback and letting him sit for a year or two before you put him out there so that he can process what's going on. So I mean, but for this season, rookie of the year, I don't even know who else you talk about other than Chet. And as of right now, today, yeah, Chet's the better player. Hands down, right now, today, he's the better player. He also has a better supporting cast, but he is the better player right now. Now, next year, let's see what kind of jump Wimby takes. And that may change everything. But dude, Chet, and I'm telling you, finally being in the gym to watch him in person, dude's good, man. The dude is really, really. I know he is a skinny little beanpole, man, but the dude can ball big time. He can ball. That
So
was a win by Sam Presti.
so I actually had a friend that I was actually texting about this over Christmas, kind of over the holiday weekend, and he said he actually had seen him. I don't remember what game he had went to see him in, and he goes in person. he said watching Chet play is like it's like somebody playing NBA 2K and setting sliders like all the way to one direction. Because he's like he doesn't look like he's so massive, and it just looks goofy the way that he's able to move. Like that's how like he shouldn't be able to move that way whenever he's that tall, essentially. So
And literally in person, he looks smoother than he does on TV. Like
yeah,
being there in the gym, I was like, ooh, like it looks awkward on TV. In person, it looks really easy. Now,
yeah.
again, small. He is not as small as the TV makes him look. He still needs to bulk up. But man, Cason Wallace, real deal. Aaron Wiggins, glue guy. Kendrick Williams, glue guy. Shea, superstar. Jada, possibly a superstar on the. I mean, like, dude, they got
Dort's the
Dort.
glue guy.
Oh, the night I was there, I mean, the Clippers game, Dort went nuts. Like, Dort was everything you want Dort to be. Great defense and lit it up offensively by just waiting. Just waiting. Ball finds him wide open, cash. Like, ball finds him wide open, guy crashes on him hard to the hoop, score. I mean, it was amazing.
So let me ask this because we're getting closer to the midpoint of the season. We're gonna probably start potting less. So I thought I'd go ahead and ask it. Maybe we can have another one post bowl game, and I'll ask this again to Troy. Do you think they can keep the pace up? Do you want to change? Would you change your prediction about from preseason to now? Would you change it about just being about 500 or how you
I mean,
feel?
I still feel like they were going to be above 500. 50 games still seem like a lot for me, but dude, they're still on like 56, 57 game pace right now. I think that will come down. I mean, you do have some teams like Memphis that didn't have Ja for basically the whole first half um, of the season. You've had some other teams they've been able to play when they're down and hurt a little bit, so do all those things even out. And let's also be real, man. They're still playing great. But that first 10 or 15 games, when Dort was shooting like 51% from three, Chet was shooting like 60% from three, Case and Wallace was shooting like that is not reality. And so they stacked up some wins when they were on a heater to start the year. They've continued to play really well, but I still think they're going to come down fringe 50, not 56. I mean, not on the top end of 50 wins. You know what I'm saying? So I think yeah,
Yeah.
they'll cool down.
Yeah, I mean, I still think my prediction of because I said 50 to
Right.
start. I think they'll be above 50. I don't think they're going to be like 59 or something crazy. I mean,
No, no.
I think they'll be 50, 51 somewhere in there. But and then real quick, we're starting to get closer and closer, like I said, to those to the trade, like where trade is starting to get brought up in scenarios. Do you think Presti's going to pull any magic out of his hat this year or
I don't know, man. I mean, it's crazy because I think we all like what's hard is to disengage your mind from preseason, right? And I did not think Chet would be this good. And even though I've seen him in person, I'm still just like, huh. I've been down on Giddy for a minute, right? And I understand there's a lot personally going on with him, and maybe that's a big factor on it. So I don't know, but dude, like I say all that, and they're third in the West. I mean, and they've beaten the team above them,
yep.
and they've beaten the team above that. Like, do you really screw that up at this point, or do you let it ride? Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's gonna have to be something that Presti feels 100% confident fits seamlessly, and that they can keep going because right now you're on the rise. And you have gotten better as the years gone along defensively. You've gotten better as it like
You're going to
I
I
don't know.
mean, you're going to get to a point where you're going to have to make tough decisions, unfortunately, right? Like
Yes.
cuz you can't have at this point if they use all their draft picks and keep everybody, they're going to have 55 guys on the roster. They're not going to make an NFL roster. So they're going to do something. I don't know if they'll do it this year, but again, it's Presti, dude.
Yeah.
If you think you know, if you tell me that you know what Presti's going to do, then I'm going to believe you have a time machine. That's the
Right.
only way that makes any
The
sense.
the
So,
only thing we know, this is the only thing we know, in my opinion. Troy would add a fourth, but I say there's three. Shea, J Dub, Chet. That is what you know for those three are off the. I don't care how many firsts. I don't care what players coming back on the other side. Those three. That's it. They're going to do everything they can to give all those guys the most money they can possibly give them. And then hopefully the stashing of all these draft picks lets you build the roster around them with some talent with young guys on rookie contracts, right? Like now, what happens with Giddy? I don't know because his contract's coming up right alongside Dort's and J Dubs and some others. So what happens there? What happens with Jay Will? What happens with Aaron Wiggins? I don't know. So we'll see. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, and other pro sports real quick, talking about some superstars. Baker freaking Reagan Mayfield.
4 in a row, baby.
4 in a row.
Four in
Dude,
a
he's
row.
thrown one interception in the
Yeah.
last 4 games.
And again,
And
the Tampa Bay games unfortunately are not on in our area very often, but dude, the highlights dots. I
hey,
mean,
listen, I'm just gonna say, look, Baker, I'm in Orlando, dude. You ever want to come on the pod? You've already got
come
a
on.
spot out. You can come sit right here next to me, buddy.
We say goodbye to
Um,
you every night when we finish this
yeah,
thing. So
yeah,
just come say
yeah.
hi.
But dude, I've watched the last 2 or 3 games because pretty much everyone's broadcast here, obviously.
Right.
Orlando's right next to Tampa, so I get pretty much every game. Dude, what I would say is I feel like we're seeing more of that Baker we saw in college in the sense of just like you said, he makes some throws. That throw to Mike Evans, I was like, bro, like again, you
Yeah.
just like your mind, like you like I had to like rewind it in my head of being like that just actually happened. I think he's getting his swagger back. The fan base seems to love him in Tampa.
Yes, I
The
do.
team seems to love him in Tampa. I mean, I think he's finally maybe getting into, knock on wood, getting into that good culture, getting into that good into a situation that fits him and what he brings to that table. Um, but yeah, just a quick, the dude's leading. They have to win. I think they have to win one of their next 2 games to make the playoff.
Correct. They need another win.
Um, so that's for them to automatically get in. So and who would have thought that? I mean, everybody I think thought Baker was going to come in and it would be like a lot of people thought maybe a middling year. Nobody knew what to expect. So him to have them even in playoff discussion is pretty wild. So
Yeah, 100%. I mean, kudos to him, man. Just continuing to be prepared and ready every day. I mean, that's
yeah,
what he's done, and I'm really really happy for the guy, man. Just awesome, awesome stuff.
yeah, it really seems like things are going good for him. So, and just to wrap it up real quick, entertainment wise, did you get to do anything or did you watch any? I mean, you've been busy.
Dude,
Rebel Moon came out. You didn't see that yet, I
I
guess.
have not. I want to, but I have not. I like literally haven't. I've Reacher as well. I mean, I saw the night that it was going to be up, and I was like, I'm going to watch this tonight. And then we got pulled into family stuff. I've had some drama stuff, outside work stuff that's been crazy. So I have not. I mean, the most that I've seen is Elf and Christmas Vacation because those are family tradition nights that we have to have. Like,
Hey, hey, I said this. Christmas Vacation is the best Christmas movie. I will die on this hill.
it's pretty dang good. It's
Yeah.
pretty dang good. Um,
Um.
but no,
Yeah. Rebel Moon. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna give it like a 3 out of 10.
hey,
It was
yikes.
not very good. They've already the second one's already is gonna come out like in April. So I don't know. Maybe that'll be better. And then Reacher's been pretty good. The first season I think was better so far than this one has been,
Yeah.
but this one's still I'm enjoying it. So, but like we were talking about before, like the pod, just a lot of stuff coming out. So I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more as we pod, just because it's kind of getting to that season. You're
Yeah,
getting
it
into the
is.
colder months. So, but yeah. So, but that's all I got, man. That you
Awesome.
got anything else?
That's it for me, man. So again, hope you've liked it. If you have, like, subscribe, leave comments, do all the things to help us out. Continue to spread the word about this thing. Share it with somebody else. Get them to come along. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those things. So we would appreciate it. We're having a great time. We hope you are too. I'm Daryl. That's Jared, and we will talk to you guys later.
Bye, Baker.